Here we go. Today's Daf, there's Hashem, is Daf Chav Tes. We begin by the Mishnah on Daf Chav Ches Amud Beis. We're going to start just from the Mishnah. I just want to throw you out this famous picture, and this famous picture should be in your sleep. You have, and that's the whole point. It's very simple. You have four brothers. Two of the brothers are married to two sisters, and they subsequently die. Reuven and Shimon die, and now the two sisters fall to Yibum. So we have been telling you all along that you're supposed to only do chalitza. You can't do yibum to any one of the sisters. Why? Is because of this. This is a vocabulary word. It's called achois zukukasai. It's almost like both of them fell to yibum to each of the brothers, and he's like automatically married to two sisters. So when he does yibum to one of the sisters, he's like marrying his wife's sister. So we require chalitza. And no yibum, but they can't go free without anything, right? They can't go free without anything because they do fall to yibum midairaisa. So that's the whole thing we learned. Yes, all throughout the beginning of the parak. So the whole point of today is that there is an opinion of Rabbi Shimon, who will say that those two sisters can walk away without yibum or chalitza, because there's a pasuk that says that if two sisters fall to yibum, according to Rabbi Shimon, you walk away without yibum or chalitza. Okay? We learned also in the Mishnah, by the way, yesterday, 2 days in the beginning of the parak, is that if this occurs, a situation, even if you hold that there is zika and they do fall to yibum, you're required chalitza, sometimes you could do yibum when the two brothers die, and one of the sisters is an erva. It's to one of the brothers. So let's say it's an erva to Levi. Levi's mother-in-law is falling to yibum. So we ignore her. She is almost as if she never fell to yibum. So technically only one lady fell to yibum to Levi, which is Leah. And that's why Levi in this picture can do yibum to Leah. Okay? That's what we said in the previous Mishnah. Again, we're going to learn a new person over here. It's like the Mishnah. There are three brothers. Two of them are married to two sisters. Or it doesn't necessarily mean that they're just two sisters falling to yibum. Or isha bita, one brother married the mother and one married the daughter. Or isha bas bita, or one married the mother and one married the granddaughter. Or isha bas bana, or one married the grandmother and one married the granddaughter from her son's side. So the point is that when these two ladies fall to yibum to the remaining third brother, okay, this is a case where there are only three brothers, and so two of them died, and you have these two isurim falling at the same time. The Mishnah says, same idea, harelu cholzis v'lo, you should do chalitza and not yibum, because technically with the Raisa you can do yibum to any one of them, but because they're falling at the same time, there's a bonding to both of them, and therefore only chalitza and not yibum. Okay, that should be clear. But here's the new opinion in the Mishnah. Rab Shimon Paiter. Rab Shimon says that the two women, the two sisters, can walk away free. Nothing. You don't have to do chalitza. Certainly you can't do yibum. Then the Mishnah says, but even according to Rab Shimon, if one of the sisters was an Isser Erva, so it's almost as if she never fell to yibum. Let's say one of them was the mother-in-law that fell to yibum. So then also, but he's not permitted to marry her because it's not really, she's an erva to him, but he's permitted to marry the sister. But Isser mitzvah, Isser kedusha, but if the woman that's falling to yibum, one of the women that fell to yibum is an Isser d'Rabbanan, right? It's only, let's say, an Isser mitzvah, one of the shnios, or Isser kedusha, or there's a lav to marry that woman. Let's say she's a grusha and the yavam is a kohen for something like that. Then cholzis v'loy misyabos. Still, you should do chalitza and not do yibum. Now, if this is the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, if you look at Isser mitzvah as if it doesn't exist, then technically they should be able to go out without chalitza and without chalitza, like two sisters, because it's only an Isser d'Rabbanan. So really with the rice, it's just two sisters falling to yibum, and they should be able to go free. So the Gemara is going to discuss that. So remember this, there's an opinion called Rav Shimon who says that when two sisters fall to yibum, you don't even require chalitza. They walk free. How do you know that? Tanya Rab Shimon pointed b'shneim and chalitza b'deyibam. Shenema. Where did Rab Shimon come up with this idea? Because he learns. It says v'isha el achoisa leisikach litzrar. A woman, you're not allowed to take them when they're tsaras to each other. That means b'sha'ah shenasu tsaras ulazu, when they become automatically co-wives to each other. That means so the way he's learning it is that at one point both of the sisters fell to Yibam. So the pasuk is saying, "Lo sikach, lo yelechu lekuchen afilu ba'achas mehem." You can't marry even one of them. So because of that, they don't fall to Yibam at all. Two sisters, as soon as they fall to Yibam, it says you can't do Yibam, and certainly you don't, and you don't do Yibam, and you don't do Chalitza. They walk away free. There's no marriage over here. So that's the opinion of Rab Shimon. Then the Mishnah said, according to Rab Shimon, if one of them was Isser Erva, even according to Rab Shimon, you're supposed to marry the other one. Why do I have to say this idea according to Rab Shimon? We already said this idea according to Rabbanan. So what are you telling me? Again, if one of the women is an Isser Erva, you can marry the other one. So the Gemara says, Rab Shimon Itzrach. I needed to tell you this idea even according to Rab Shimon. I would have thought, Rab Shimon says, when two sisters fall to Yibam, there's no Chalitza, no Yibam. So, Ligzar, let us say that even if one is an Erva, we should not allow Yibam. Because if you allow Yibam when one is an Erva, people are going to think when one of them is not an Erva. If you just have plain two sisters, you could also do Yibam. Kamash Malam, that's why we say, no, we don't make that Gezerah. And if one of them is an Erva, we allow you to do Yibam to the opposite one. Now, the Mishnah said, Isser Mitzvah. If one of the sisters was an Isser D'Rabbanan, let's say Shnios, so imagine that Isser Mitzvah doesn't exist. So what's falling to Yibam? Two sisters. Two sisters, according to Rav Shimon, should be able to walk free without anything. And yet the Mishnah says that they need Chalitza. Now why? That's what the Gemara is talking. Isser Mitzvah. So the Gemara's question is, Rav Shimon said, Rav Shimon said two sisters go walk away free without Chalitza, without Yibam. So why is it that if one of them is Isra D'Rabbanan, we say you need Chalitza? According to Rab Shimon, we should imagine the Isra D'Rabbanan doesn't exist because Midaraisa, just two sisters have fallen to Yibam. And Midaraisa, the Torah already tells you when two sisters fall to Yibam, according to Rab Shimon, he has a pasuk that tells you they don't need even Chalitza. Answers the Gemara, Gezerah Mishum Issa Mitzvah de Alma. The reason is that if, let's say, if you allow this sister with an Isser Mitzvah on her to walk away without Chalitza, I might think that I might make a mistake and say that in another scenario, when there's only one lady falling to Yibam and she's an Isser Mitzvah, people will say that, there's an Isser Shnios over here. She walks out without a Chalitza, without a Yibam. People will say such a thing. So in order for people, and that's not true, because if there's one woman with an Isser Mitzvah, b'daraisa she does fall to Yibam, and she doesn't go free. So that's why they required you that anytime there's an Isser Mitzvah involved, you're supposed to give a Chalitza. So the Gemara says, okay, but you should only give the Chalitza to the Isser Mitzvah, the woman, the sister that has the Isser D'Rabbanan on her. What about her sister? She, I agree, should get the chalitza, but her sister should not require chalitza. She's not an Isser Mitzvah. And so the Gemara, we geyser the sister because of her mazel. In other words, if you're not going to give chalitza to the sister, you're also not going to give chalitza to the Isser Mitzvah sister. And if you're not going to give an chalitza to the Isser Mitzvah sister, okay, in this case, nothing wrong happens. But in a case where there's going to be only one Isser Mitzvah, only one lady's falling to Yibam and she's an Isser Mitzvah, people are going to say every Isser Mitzvah doesn't need Chalitza. That's why we say over here, do Chalitza over here to prevent any misinformation. Frag the Gemara, Vagabe Erva loy gazrinim. Well, one of them is an Erva and one of them is a regular woman. We say you could do Yibam or Chalitza to the regular sister. Why don't we say that we should require that the erva should also have a chalitza? Why? Because it may come to a situation. You're going to say that when there's going to be, just like you say, I'm sorry. If you're going to say that we don't say that we should do chalitza to the erva because maybe the sister, which is not an erva, and Ruya Liyobim, maybe she's going to go out free too. In other words, when one of them is an erva, you say she could walk free, but you could do yibum or chalitza on the sister. Why don't you make a gezerah? If you're up to gezerah making, your people will say, just like you didn't do yibum or chalitza on the erva, you're not going to do yibum or chalitza on the sister. But that's and therefore you should also make a gezerah that there should be yibum and there should be yibum and you should be doing chalitza on the erva. So let me just give it to you straight up here. In this case, even according to Reb Shimon, why don't we require that when Rachel and Leah fall to Yibam, to Levi, and Rachel is his mother-in-law, Rachel should be required chalitza. Because if you're going to say Rachel can walk free, it's his mother-in-law, she didn't fall to Yibam, then people are going to say that Leah is going to walking free. You're already making, if you're coming up with gezeras, people will say that Leah could walk free without a Yibam and chalitza. And so how come we never made that gezerah? So the Gemara says, that's very simple. Shani erva, when it comes to an erva, the migmar gemiri law einoshe. Everybody is aware that an erva, you can't do yibum. You can't do yibum with your mother-in-law. So nobody's going to make a mistake and say on the sister, she walks away free. Everybody's going to know to differentiate between your mother-in-law and the sister. That the mother-in-law didn't require chalitza and yibum. She could walk out free. And the other sister that fell to yibum is required to do yibum chalitza. B'kol isla, everybody, it's studied in the schools, in the yeshivas, but not everybody is aware of Rabbi Shimon's opinion. Rabbi Shimon has a unique opinion that when two sisters fall to Yibam, they walk out scot-free. And people are not going to don't know of that story. And people are going to say that if we're going to allow that to take place, when one of the sisters is an Isser mitzvah, that they could walk free, people are not going to realize that the reason why they're walking free is because of Rabbi Shimon's opinion. People are going to think that they're walking free because of the Isser mitzvah involved. And then in another scenario, when there's just an Isser mitzvah, people are going to say you can walk free. Isser mitzvah walks us free. That's why in that case, Rabbi Shimon said, when one of them is Isser mitzvah, even though technically they both can walk free, the two sisters can walk free, he requires you to do a chalitza. So walk away from this Mishnah and be aware of an opinion of Rabbi Shimon, who says that when two sisters fall to Yibam, they both can walk free. But according to the Tanakama of our Perek, they need a chalitza. Next Mishnah. Mishnah deals over here with a fascinating thing. You know, in the Torah it says that in order to consummate a Yibam marriage, you have to have intimacy. Yavama, Yavayala. They have to have bia. They have to have relations, marital relations. But what happens if a woman falls to Yibam and instead of doing marital relations, he gives her a ring and says, Hare at mukudeshesli. Bingo. It's not written in the Torah. What happens in that scenario? So here we begin this Mishnah, the Mishnah on Daf Lamed. And here we discuss the scenario when a person goes over to his Yavama and instead of doing marital relations, he gives her a ring. Does it do anything? So Mishnah says, Shloisha Achem, you have two brothers, Shnaim Nisuim Shtei Achayois. Two of them are married to two sisters. Ve'achad Mufna. So you have two sisters married to two brothers, and one of them is not married to anyone. Meis echad mi balechais. One of the husbands of the sisters died. So that only girl fell to Yibam. So you could do Yibam with her. Va'asa b'mamar. Va'asa b'mufna mamar. Instead, the single brother that was not married to anyone just gave her a kedushin, gave her a ring. And that's strange because the Torah says you should just do bia, but he gave her a ring. And then the second brother died. So now the question is, what did he accomplish anything by giving her a ring? And so Beis Shammai says, Ishta ima, he could remain with his wife. The second sister that fell to Yibam doesn't fall to Yibam. So because it's his wife's sister. Now, there are three ways to learn Pshat and Beis Shammai, and that's the whole Gemara. One way to learn Pshat and Beis Shammai is that when you gave her a ring, it's like as if you had marital relations with the Yavama, and that's your wife. And therefore, the sister that fell to Yibam could walk away without Chalitza or Yibam. And all you need, and you can't give Chalitza to this woman that you say it Hadareyat, but she's like your wife. And if you want to release her, you need a full-fledged get. And Chalitza, you don't need. That's one way. That according to Beis Shammai, Mama makes kinyan a bona fide kinyan. According to another way to learn Pshat and Beis Shammai is that Mama doesn't make a full kinyan. It's really, if you want to get rid of that woman, the one that you made Mama to, he would have to give her a get and Chalitza. But to the woman, to his sister that fell to Yibam, Mama works that the sister that falls to Yibam walks out without Chalitza Yibam. Because it's as if you began the process of Yibam with the first sister, so the second sister that fell to Yibam could walk out because she's a Chois Isha. And then the third way to learn Pshat and Beis Shammai is it's not a Kinyan Gomer, and it's not pushes away the second sister. It just pushes away the second sister that you should give her a Chalitza, but you can continue with the Yibam of the one that you did Mimer to. So those are the three ways, clear ways, how to learn Pshat and Beis Shammai. We'll discuss all that in the Gemara, but I just bring this up because Beis Shammai is not clear. Beis Hillel says like this: Moitzias Ishta, you have to divorce your wife, beget, give her a get because you gave her a ring, so you have to give her a get, ubachalitza, and then you do chalitza because you didn't finish up, you didn't complete the Yavama process. The Eishes Achib bechalitza, and the brother's wife you have to give chalitza to, because she's now falling to Yibam. And Zihish Amr, this is a classic case of Oy Loy Lalishta, you lose your wife, Oy Lal Aishas Achiv, and you lose your brother's wife. In other words, you end up with nobody. And so that is the case of the Mishnah where Beis Hillel says you get nobody, not one of the sisters. So the Gemara says, first the Gemara discusses Beis Hillel. Zihi Lamute Mai. What does it mean? This is the only case? Is there another case? So the Gemara says, yes, there is another case where you might lose, where according to some opinions, you'll lose both your wives. Lemute hach to Rabbi Yeshua, the loy avdin and kavase, el ikra ben Gamliel, ikra belazer. There's another opinion, there's another case scenario where we'll learn this later on. So we don't have to discuss it now, but briefly, according to Rabbi Yeshua, that scenario, you lose both your wife and the Yavama. So and the case that they're talking about is if you married a Katana and your brother married the Gedolah, and then the brother died. So you have a Kedusha Drabanim with the sister who's a Katana. And now this Gedolah falls to Yibam. So Rabbi Yeshua said you have to get rid of your Katana wife and you have to give Chalitza by giving her a get, and you have to do Chalitza on the sister, the older sister that's now falling to Yibam. That's Rabbi Yeshua's opinion. But we don't paskin like them. We go either like Rabbi Gamliel or Rabbi Lezer. Either you wait till the girl grows up, and if she does, your wife grows up. If she does mimer, then you can marry the Yavama. And if you consummate the marriage, then you could stay with your wife. So again, this is the only case that according to Beis Hillel, will you lose your wife and you lose your brother's wife. Okay. Amar Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Lezer said, and he explains Beis Shammai. Again, Beis Shammai says that when you did mimer, if you gave a ring to one sister, and then the other sister fell to Yibam. So Beis Shammai says that's your complete wife. And the sister that's now, the second sister that's falling to Yibam, that second sister that's falling to Yibam, you can release it, she can go free. So look what Rabbi Lezer says. Amar Rabbi Lezer. Don't say that when you do mimer, according to Beis Shammai, when you give a ring to a Yavama, it's like as if you did bia with her, and that's your wife. The boya that the only way to get rid of her is with a get, and you don't give chalitza. That's not the pshat of Beis Shammai, and that's one way to learn pshat Beis Shammai, that it's really a bona fide wife. Elar, this is the way you learn Pshat Beis Shammai. Mama Beis Shammai, according to Beis Shammai, ain't a koine el litchos b'tzar belvad. Mama, according to Beis Shammai, it doesn't make it your full-fledged wife. It just says that the tzara, the sister that falling to Yibam, she can walk out without anything. But the one that you did mama to, you still have to do bia. And if you want to get rid of her, you're going to need two things: a get and the chalitza. Amar Ababan, Afanana mitinina. I'll prove it to you from our Mishnah. The same idea. If you chop it, Beis Shammai said Yekaimu. In this case, in the case of the two brothers, Beis Shammai says if b'diavad Levi was Miyabim Rachel and Yehuda was Miyabim Leah by the two brothers and the two sisters falling to Yibim, it works. So the Gemara is saying it could only work b'diavad if it happened. L'chatchila, you shouldn't do this. But if you learn, that's what Beis Shammai said in that Mishnah. Bisal kadaita, we go to Amud Beis. Ma'amala Beis Shammai koine kim yigambar zeh yasamayim v'yikna zeh yasamayim v'yikna. Why doesn't Beis Shammai advise that each one should do maimer and take away the achois zika? So let's say in the case over here, you'll have Levi do maimer on Rachel, so that's his full-fledged wife. No Zeke anymore with Rachel, and so now Yehuda can do Ma'amar on Leah. Now they're both married, and then that's it, because Ma'amar works a Kinyan Gomer. So therefore, it's a proof that Ma'amar is not a Kinyan Gomer. Giving a ring to a Yavama is not like you're coining her completely. So what do you want to say? Do you want to say Doicha Dechia Gemura, that Ma'amar pushes her away, pushes the second sister away, that you don't need Yibam or Chalitza? So again, you could ask the same question. Each one should do Mamar and push away the second sister, and this one should push away the second sister. So you could solve the problem that they both can marry Lechatchila. There's a very big difference in doing Mamar in our Mishnah and doing Mamar in this case. In this case, when you do Mamar, you weren't allowed to do Mamar because they were both sisters at the same time, and now you're doing Mamar, it doesn't work. In our Mishnah, when you did Mamar on one of the sisters, the other sister was still married. In other words, Shimon was still alive. So therefore, that case is very different. That's a strong Mamar. You always have to say, Mama dehatera dochi. A Mama, when you do it, when you're allowed to do it, when you could do Yibam, and you could do chalitza, and you gave mamar, you gave a ring, then that's strong enough to push away the second wife, the isura loidachi. But if you do a mamar when you're not supposed to do mamar, then it doesn't work. Hachaname, even if you hold mamar as a kinyan gomer, even if you hold that like that the opinion of Beis Shammai is that mamar is a complete kinyan, mamar that kani, the isura lo kani. Mamar is heter only if you did it when you were allowed to do it, but not when it's Isser. So again, that is one way to learn Pshat there. So far, we cruised through two ways to learn Pshat in Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai said that when you did Mamar on this woman, right, you gave her a ring, you could learn Pshat that your mamish koine her completely. It's your wife, and the other one doesn't fall to Yibam at all, and that's it. It's almost as if you did Bia. But according to the first way we learned, Rab Lozer, who said that no, Mama is not a Kinyan Gomer, but it's strong enough to make the other sister not fall to Yibam. Ravashi Masni Hochi. Ravashi has even another, it's not even a push off of Mama. Mama is one step lower, even according to Beis Shammai. Amar Rab Lozer, this is what Rab Lozer said. Loi Tama me Mama Beis Shammai Dochi Dichia Gemura, that pushes away the second wife, the second sister, and she can walk totally out the door. She doesn't need chalitza at all. It pushes her off, but she still needs chalitza. So that is the weakest version of how to learn Beis Shammai. That Beis Shammai says that Mama works enough that that it's not called achoisu kukasai. You could still continue miyabim, the one that you did Mama to, and the other one you have to do chalitza to. And then the Gemara just wants to prove it again. Amar Avavin Afanan Amitniya Beis Shammai Yekaimu and Lechatchila loy. Bisal Kadaitech Me'amar the Beis Shammai Doichet Dechiat Gemura Zeh Yasamayim V'Yitcha Zeh Yasamayim V'Yitcha. So then why wouldn't Beis Shammai says that if it's Doichet Dechiat Gemura, everybody should do Mamar in this case? Why does Beis Shammai say that only B'diavad, if the two brothers get married, the two sisters, then we allow them to stay? Let them each do Mamar to their respective sisters. And that was Sholem Al Yisrael. They both can marry these sisters because they'll push away the Zika by doing Maimer. So the Gemara says no. You can't learn Pshat that way. Beis Shammai Omer, Ishta Imay, the wife stays with you. You're telling me that the Beis Shammai says in the Mishnah that the second sister in our Mishnah, in our case, in our Mishnah, the second sister walks away because it's the sister's, is the wife of, it's the sister of your wife. From our Mishnah is mashma that the second lady that fell to Yibam, she walks away with nothing. You don't have to give her anything. So how are you going to square that off? According to your version, Rav Ashi, the second sister needs at least a chalitza. Ella yivama dechaze lekule chaze lemiktsasai. Yivama delechaze lekule lechaze lemiktsasai. So what we can say over there is what the Gemara is saying is that the reason why Maimer wouldn't work when the two sisters are falling to Yibam at the same time is because you can't. Maimer wouldn't work at all. So therefore, it wouldn't work part of the way. Over here, since it can work. Technically, Maimer could have worked. You could have made the whole Yibam and the whole 9 yards. You only made Maimer, so it works part of the way where that the Achois Zika would not fall to Yibam, but nevertheless, you would still need Chalitza. So again, there were 3 ways how to learn Pshat in Beis Shammai. New Gemara, and then we'll finish up. Boya Rabba, Mamar, giving a ring again to a woman that's falling to Yibam. Beis Shammai, and if you hold, according to Beis Shammai, and let's say you hold, and this is you have to learn Pshat in the Gemara this way, that if you hold that Mamar does a Kinyan Gomer, right? Does it mean you're Nesuin Oisa, as if you're married to the woman? It means is it post facto Bia? It's like as if you went to Chuppah already. Or Erison Oisa, or is it just like you did Erison Oisa? You just did Erison. Now, on the surface, when you give somebody a ring in a regular marriage, you only do Erison, not Nesuin. Nesuin comes later with the Chuppah. But perhaps, according to Beis Shammai, Mamar, giving a ring to a woman who's Yavama is so strong that it's like Nesuin, like it's as if you married her, as if you don't even need a Chuppah anymore. Amalei Abaya, Lamai Hilkasa, what would be the halachic difference between Nesuin and Erison? Would you say, that when you're married to a woman and you're kohen and you can inherit her, if you're a kohen, you're allowed to be metama to her, and any husband could nullify any vows that she made. So that's why it's important to know, according to Beis Shammai, if you give a ring to a Yavama, is she like you're married to her, or it's just Erison? So the Gemara says it's impossible to say that it's total like Nesuin, because Hashta Erison Ba'alma, if you just did Erison, Ton Rabchia, Ishta Yarusa Loy, Oinim Loy Mitamala, V'chein Hi Loy Enes Loy Mitamis Loy, she doesn't have to sit Shiva for you. And she can eat kachim if you just did Erison. If she's a Kahanis, she doesn't Mitama, she doesn't have to attend the Labaya. Mesa, Eina Yarsha, Mesu, Gaivik Subasa. So even if a regular giving a ring, you don't get that kind of a power on a normal marriage. Here, Ovid Ba Mamar Meboya, would I think that if you're doing Mamar, where the Torah says that really I want you to do Bia. The Torah tells you to do Bia. So I would think that Mamar would be like as if you totally are post Chuppah with her. That's not likely to say. So even according to Beis Shammai, that's a koine Kinyan Gomer. At the very least, it's like Erison. But not, you wouldn't say it's so strong, like as if it's, you're married 3 years. It's just like an Erison. So then what is your question? The Ella le'inya mesira l'chuppah mai. Do you need a chuppah? Basically, mai. Would you say like this? Nisuin oisa v'loy boya mesira l'chuppah. You don't need a mesira l'chuppah, and therefore, what the Gemara is saying is, I'll grant you it has a din like an Erison. But it's an Erison a little stronger than an Erison. Most Erisons need a chuppah, and then you do bia, right? That's the story. You do Erison, chuppah, and bia. In this case, you did Maimer, and you could go directly to bia, and you don't have to do chuppah. And what's the difference? So Rashi explains that because you don't have to do chuppah, you can have bia with her by force. See, if you need a regular Masira L'chuppah, has to be done l'ritzaina. She has to be a willing participant. But here, since it's almost as if you're post the chuppah situation, so then the bia can be done by force. It's just an erison, and now you need like a Masira L'chuppah. The only time the bia works is if it's ritzaina. And the chuppah has to be ritzaina. Amalei. That wouldn't make sense. Hasha loy ovid by mamar. If you didn't do mamar, ksiv yavama yavayala. If you didn't do mamar at all, in a regular case of a yavama falling to the yavam, you can do bal karcha. You can do it against her will. We said this before, that when a yavama falls to yibam, if the yavam rapes her against her will, he's kind to her. It's his wife against her will. So why should avid by maim be baya? Why should by the fact that you gave her a ring should make it any worse that you can't do bia bal karcha? Amalei. So the answer is, Rabbi answered Abaya, the reason why it would make it worse, I think it's Rabbi answering Abaya. The reason why it would make it worse, Shani Oima, Kol Sha'oisa Mama Beyavimtoi. When you do Mama and gave her a ring, she's no more Yavama. Parcho Memena Zikas Yavamim. The Yavam bonding goes off and it goes down a level. Now she's just an Erison, and therefore you have to do everything with her will. You have to almost have Bia with her as a willing participant. So let's understand this. Again, the question that Rabba asked. Rabba is asking, we all know that when the Yavama falls to Yibam, so then the Yavam, the man, can even force Bia onto her and koina her, and that's his wife. Because the Pasuk says, Yavama Yavayala. But here, in this situation, if you gave her a ring and pretended that you're getting married to her, right, and you say, Harayat Mekudeshes Li, then maybe you made it worse. Maybe it's not considered like Yavama anymore, and you would have to have Mesira L'chuppah. She has to be a willing participant going down to a chuppah, having Bia with you. So that was the Gemara's question. There's Maimer, even though it's kind of Kinyan Gomer, right? It's your Erison's, your full-fledged wife, and you don't need Chalitza anymore, and you only need the get, but perhaps it's you can't do Bia Bal Karcha. So the Gemara says, Toshma, come in here. Shemeres Yavim, Bein B'Yavim Echad, Bein B'Shnei Yavim. Let's say a Shemeres Yavim, a woman waiting to get a Yibam. What happens if she makes a vow? Any one of the brothers could do kamei for the neder. Even if there's more than one brother that potentially could do yibam, if she makes a vow, they can make for the neder because they can nullify the neder because there's almost as if she's married to them. Only one brother. If she fell to yibam to one brother, then it's most likely that brother can do yibam with her, and therefore only he can do mefer. But if there are two brothers there, then none of them can nullify the vow. Rabbi Akiva, loy le'echad, loy lishnayim. Not to one brother, not to two brothers. A woman who's a shemeres yavam, waiting for her yavam to decide what to do. So then nobody can make for her nether. And any vow that she makes is on her own. We asked the question to understand the opinions over here. Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shua, Rabbi Kiva. Bishlam Rabbi Kiva, Sava Ein Zika Fil Chad. Rabbi Kiva holds there's no bonding even to one, so nobody can do hafara. Le Rabbi Shua Lechad Yeshika Letrei Ein Zika. According to Rabbi Shua, when there's only one brother, then you say there's a bonding. When there are two or more brothers, then there's no bonding because you don't know specifically which brother she's most connected to. Ella Rab Lezer says anybody could do the yibam. Even if you hold there is bonding. Bishlam lechad mefer, but bishlam I understand one can do mefer. Ella letrei amai, but why can both of them do hafara? Why do you say each one of them can do a hafara? I don't understand Rabbi Lezer's opinion. You could say this brother can do the hafara, that brother can nullify the nether. Why is that? Why? In other words, why one brother can do the mefer and you don't need all brothers to do the hafara? That's the question. Question is that if she's falling to yibam to all the brothers, then let all of them do hafara. And if one does it alone, it shouldn't work because technically she's falling to yibam to any one of the brothers. So we're not designating one over the other. Yes, we did designate one over the other. Here we're talking about on the other Maimer. She did Maimer Ubei the Omar Maimer Koine Kinyan Gomer. She did Maimer to one of the brothers, so she's really technically designated to one brother over the other one, and that's why that brother could do hafara. So the Gemara says like this. That was the teretz Rabami explained Rab Loz's opinion of Yafer. that when there are more than one brothers, if she did mimer to one of them, that's the brother that can do hafara. If you're going to tell me that mimer normally does nisuim, that's why we say he can do hafara. If mimer is like a pre-chuppah, right? If it's just an erison, even if you did mimer and it's a kind of kinyan gomer, we never find that a husband who just did erison can do hafara. But now we learned in the Mishnah, Nara Hamarasa Avia Bala Mafi'irin Nadareha. Mara Hamarasa, if a woman just got engaged, right? She didn't get chuppah, and she's a teenager, a young 12-year-old, then her father and her husband are both doing the hafara at the same time. She doesn't belong more to the husband because he didn't do chuppah, and doesn't belong to the father because the husband did erison. So therefore, you need both of them. So erison doesn't make it a strong connection where a person could do hafara. So therefore, that's a good raya that mamer makes nisuin. That's what the Gemara leaves it. That according to Beis Shammai, not only is mamer kinyan gomer, but it also is like a post chuppah situation. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, my mefer, no, really Nara, according to Beis Shammai, mimer is only erison. And my mefer b'shutafos. You do it together with the father. In other words, what he meant is that the one that did the mimer does hafara together with her father. Well, now the Gemara asks a side question. But if you learn that mimer is not a kinyan gomer at all, then Bechlal, Rab Lezer's opinion makes no sense. Amai maybe shutafis. How could you make hafara at all? You're not kind of anything. According to that way to learn Pshat and Beis Shammai, it's not a kinyan gomer. Then you're not kind of anything. So how could you say you do hafara? Rab Lezer says, I could explain Rabbi Eliezer. When do I explain? It's not a kinyan gomer only to push away the co-wife, that the co-wife can walk out without a yibam or chalitza. But I would, there's loisagi law begita, and that elaboya name chalitza, that it's not enough that you need a chalitza, that get, you also need a chalitza. That's why you're not kind of ginyan gomer by the lady itself, but the co-wife can go free. But as far as being made for her neder, you are kind of somewhat. It's not kinda, it's like a splitting an atom over here. It's not kinda that when you do it mimer, the way Rab Lezer explained Beis Shammai, is that mimer is not like now you don't need chalitza anymore. No, you do need chalitza and you need get. And it is kinda in a certain way that you could be made for her nedarim and could push away the sister co-wife if she eventually falls to Yibam. That's one way to learn Pshat. The Iba is saying another way, Amalach Rab Lezer. Rab Lezer is going to say, even though I say that according to Beis Shammai, Maimah is not a kinyan gomer, but there's according to Rav Nachman Yitzchak who says it's a kinyan gomer, mi ketoni yefiru. Does it say, Rab Lezer says that you need two people, you need the woman herself, the husband and the father doing the hefer. And according to, if you read clearly in his words, he only said yafer ketani. He said singular. Only the husband can do the hafara. So this price is one special case. It's talking about a certain case that she was in limbo. She fell to Yibam, and none of the brothers did anything with her. They didn't do anything. They totally ignored the situation. She's in limbo. She wants either Yibam or Chalitza. So the Bezdin, she sued, and Bezdin made one of the brothers pay mezainis, pay food, pay her parnasa. And once that happens, because now there's a special situation where one of the brothers is forced by the court to pay her mezainis, he gets the right to be made for nedarim on her. because whoever makes a neder, she only makes a neder only if her husband would agree to the neder, because she's getting support from her husband. In this case, she's like somewhat getting support of her husband, although not through marriage. It's because the court required it to be so. Okay, so we'll stop here, but you could walk away with something. Something is that when you the way to learn pshat in Beis Shammai, when you give a woman a ring, even though the Torah says do bia to her, but if you gave her a ring, one opinion says Maimer is koine a kinyan gomer, and another way to learn pshat is Mama is not really a kinyan gomer. It's not like it's your wife, but it's enough of a kinyan that will push away if a sister, if subsequently a sister would fall to Yibin, you don't have to get rid of this wife. You can push away the sister. Either you have to give chalitza, or according to some opinions, you don't even have to give chalitza. So this was the whole discussion today about Beis Shammai.